Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, and we battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time, according to two film geeks from Wiltshire, England. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a review and subscribe. Hello, podsters. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast for another week. This one is an absolute doozy, as the film Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings hits cinemas this week. We'll be focusing on our favourite, with no surprise, MCU origin films. And as always, our very own Star-Lord himself is with me, as usual. Mr. Boaz Dix, how are you, sir?
Yeah, Star King, Star God.
All right, don't pick up yourself too much, Christ. How are you? You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Good,
man.
good. Let's get straight into our favourite MCU origin films.
Yeah. Muku films.
My one is Guardians of the Galaxy. Why did I pick Guardians of the Galaxy? Well, it's clearly the best MCU film there is anyway. Well, definitely right up there if you...
yeah, I think it is right.
Discount
Definitely.
Avengers. Well, all the Avengers ones, I guess. Maybe not Age of Ultron. That's fine. Why did I pick this one over other origin ones? I mean, for me, I think this one is like really, really funny. Looking back, like I've literally written a note of pretty much every single line Rocket says because it's fucking hilarious. Just so entertaining and just really unique. And I feel like with this one, this was the point where Marvel was starting to take risks in their films and where they really found their confidence. Because I think with the likes of Iron Man 3, a lot of people were very divided on that film because I don't think they had the confidence at that stage to do the Mandarin properly. I still really like Iron Man 3. There are a lot of people that really don't like that film. I think it might just be a British thing because it's Trevor Slattery. And I guess British audiences just find that character hilarious and Americans are just like, what the fuck? I don't know.
Maybe they're just trying to work out what accent he's going for. Like, well,
but now, obviously, with Shang-Chi, they're doing the Mandarin properly.
when you were talking about them taking risks, it was the first MCU film where I was like, what? Like, I had no knowledge going in. I think basically how the MCU is kind of built up because they got, they sold the rights to Spider-Man and the Hulk and the X-Men, which were like the big characters. They were left with kind of the scraps, but even the scraps have like at least 60 years, you know what I mean?
History.
They've got significant amount of history, like 50 years now, 60 years of history. Whereas like the Guardians of the Galaxy, I had no bloody idea what the hell that was. And apparently as a series, it only come out a few years
2008.
prior. So there really wasn't actually, there really wasn't that much, many storylines or info really on it. And it came as a surprise to me seeing the trailer, like the announcement in the trailer, like who? Kind of like that character, he's like, I'm Star-Lord, man. He's like, who?
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy, who? What the hell? And then you're like, it's got a raccoon in it and a tree man played by Vin Diesel. It's like, what the fuck is this? But, it was pretty awesome, So they've got confidence in the brand. Now they can just pitch anything, any ridiculous character, and just make a film. People will come and watch it.
Yeah. But I think Guardians of the Galaxy have actually been around for a long time, since the 60s. The 2008 one was just like a reinvention, I think.
Yeah. Well, so apparently the original Guardians of the Galaxy team is like a what-if alternate future. So they're set in like the year 3000 or whatever. And their members are actually the members that are in... you remember in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 where the Ravagers make their own team? So Yondu was part of the original one. So the actual current cast that, Rocket and what, this is very, very kind of more recent. And it was a very obscure comic back in the 60s, so, that was cancelled.
So what happens in Guardians of the Galaxy? Well, we meet a character called Peter Quill as a kid, and he unfortunately sees his mother die in hospital, and he can't handle it, really. And so he runs out of the hospital and gets sucked up by, not pulled off, in a spaceship. Wrong film. The spaceship pulled you off? Oh my god. Into a Ravager spacecraft, and then we jump like 20 years later or something, and we find Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, the very well-known, to some,
to himself,
outlaw on Morag, and he finds this tomb, and he gets this like orb, and he's being chased by Ravagers, or no, not Ravagers, well, Ravagers as well as Kree. So he goes to Xandar to sell it, who has a deal with the creatively titled The Broker. He mentions Ronan, and the broker's like, hell no, I am not taking that. So he breaks off the deal, and then these characters called Rocket and Groot and Gamora, they all kind of meet in this quite creative action scene, because was it Groot and Rocket want to get Star-Lord because he's got a big bounty, and Gamora wants the orb, supposedly get it to Thanos. So they get captured by the Nova Corp, and they get sent to the Kiln prison, where they meet arguably one of the funniest characters in the MCU, played by Dave Bautista, Drax, who wants to kill Gamora, but Star-Lord says, no, we can use her to get close to Ronan. Basically, from then on, they go to a place called Nowhere to give it to the Collector to sell it off, but then they find out that this thing has incredible power, and it's an Infinity Stone and literally could wipe out worlds. So they basically team up with the Nova Corps and stop Ronan from taking it, basically. So what did you make of this one then, Boaz?
Yeah, man, it was cool. I loved it. And, I loved it when it came out, and I love it now. Even forgot, like, most of the jokes and stuff. And, talking about the intro, it has got to be, like, the most, like, considering how light-hearted the rest of the film is and how fun and colourful it has got to be, like, the most depressing opening.
Yeah.
Like, for a Marvel movie I've ever seen.
Really dark.
It is really dark. I even kind of forgot about that for a moment, and I was like, holy shit.
Because he kind of, like, refuses to take her mother's hand while she's dying.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh my god.
Yeah, really sad. And it's kind of strange, because this is, like, it's their first, like, sci-fi film, and this was before, like, the purchase of Star Wars and what have you. I think so, yeah. And so this is kind of, I like to think of this as like Disney Marvel's Star Wars.
Yeah, a little bit.
Before Star Wars, yeah. And, a lot better than the sequel trilogy, but yeah.
So directing then, I do love the scene on Morag, the second scene after the main credits. We have this quite dramatic setting of an abandoned planet. It's wet and horrible, and you just have this mysterious figure with like glowing red eyes in his helmet scanning a ruin. When he enters the tomb, there's a very specific shot where he puts headphones on, and the camera tracks very specifically down his hand and puts the cassette player on his hip, and you kind of like, hang on, what is that for a sec? And then Come and Get Your Love plays, and then boom, the title card, Guardians of the Galaxy, and it just immediately sets the tone for the rest of the film after this, as you said, this really dark opening. Then Peter just dances his way through the tomb, and it's just a great way to introduce the character in a great dramatic way, but the payoff is humor and dance. I think my favorite bit was when Peter uses a rat creature as a microphone and mimes.
Come and get your love.
I really enjoyed like the three-way fight between Quill, Gamora, and Rocket on Xandar when they kind of first meet. When Quill and Gamora are trying to get the orb, while Rocket and Groot are trying to get Quill. It's quite great the way they just tease all their abilities, just kind of really creative, and their tech on each other. I think my favourite bit of that scene was the end where Rocket unfolds a massive gun and just says, I live for the simple things, like how much this is going to hurt. Yeah, right, little man.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I think my favourite bit in that is where Star-Lord is like he's been put in a bag by Groot. Yeah. Gamora slices up Groot and then opens the bag, and Peter's just standing there with his pistol and shoots her in the chest. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's a very Mickey Mouse, Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, it definitely has that feel to it, doesn't it? You know, I love the action in the kiln when Rocket and Groot are like mowing down all these loads of guards when shit hits the fan, you know. Yeah. And there's a great like video game POV of Groot just like mowing down loads of people and robots or whatever, those flying things. That was pretty cool. You know, lots of movement, crazy action, then cut to complete stillness with Quill next to a guy with a metal leg, and he just says, "You need my what?" Just so funny how you go from this craziness to stillness to deliver a great joke, you know. Because Rocket's asked Star-Lord to get that guy's leg.
Yeah,
great juxtaposition, as you love that word.
Yeah, I kind of like the use of color in the film. Like almost everything is really colorful. Like they come across colorful people who are pinks and blues and greens and like any color you can bloody imagine. And the environments are just bustling with color.
Yeah,
you know, in nowhere, yellow lakes of God knows what, and you know, green skies.
Yeah.
I just like these like really intense primary colors just all over the place, and you have them in most environments. There's always, you know, just a litany of interesting colors.
Yeah,
all put together, like from the prison to know Xandar. Yeah, exactly. To Morag to whatever. Nowhere. You know, there's the till nowhere. And the only places where you don't see like that many colors are like Ronin's ship. Stuff to do with the bad guys and evil. It's more grey and it's more blue. That kind of makes sense. I do like that sort of juxtaposition where, like, you know, the world of Guardians is a bright, colourful place, or the galaxy.
Lots of coloured aliens.
Yeah. Whereas Ronan and his ilk, they're all grey and dark and horrible.
Yeah. I mean, I think the action in this film is fine, you know. It's nothing too spectacular or that creative, certainly compared to Doctor Strange. Like, the action in that is pretty amazing. I mean, the chase scene in Nowhere is pretty cool, I guess. Like, the way Quill is, like, piloting another Kree ship is quite creative.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool, because I'd even forgotten about that bit, but that was pretty damn awesome.
Yeah.
Where his ship doesn't have guns, so he... breaks through one of the other ships and then uses his ship to control that ship. That was brilliant. That was pretty cool.
And the way like the Nova Corps ships link up is pretty cool to try and stop the Darkcaster. And then like everything else is pretty standard Marvel movie action, I guess I would say. But that's not like the highlight of this film really. That what the highlight is and what it does brilliantly is how the film incorporates the character interactions and the banter between the characters, which makes this film really good. You know, make it stand out from other Marvel movies and not just the action. Saying that, I think my favourite piece of action, one of my favourites, I guess. I'm not saying this film is like bad at action. I just think a lot of other Marvel films have done better action than this one, you know?
Yeah.
Because they kind of have more creative superheroes, you know, with their abilities compared to these guys. Yeah. But I mean, my favourite piece of action near the end is Quill, Groot, and Drax are fighting a load of Ronin goons on the Darkcaster. You know, Quill takes out a few, like, going along his back with, like, rockets. That was quite cool with his blasters. Drax, like, flicks a few in slow motion with his knives. That was cool. But my favourite is when Groot, like, skewers a load of goons and then bashes them, like, way too many times than is necessary on the walls.
Yeah, I was getting, like, flashbacks to, you know, the Avengers and the Hulk
Loki
beatdown of Loki. Yeah, and that was brilliant. And he turns and smiles. It's like, you know, have I done a good job? Like, okay.
And also the soundtrack is, like, arguably one of the best soundtracks in mainstream movies for a while, I would say. My favourite shot, there's a genius shot where our characters are in the kiln and Rocket is planning their escape and mentioning all the things they need to get, specifically saying to get the battery last. It's quite a very simple shot. And while he's explaining, you can see Groot in the background grabbing the battery. And then Rocket says, you know, after he grabs it, we can just get that first and improvise.
Yeah.
One, it's really funny. Plus, it's just a great way to explain the plan and keep the pace up in the film. The film doesn't drag its heels with plot explanation. That's my favourite. How about you, sir?
A shot that really kind of, comes to my mind anytime I think of this film is like when he saves Gamora, him kind of turning to ice and like... Yeah, I just love that shot, and he's basically going to die. I just love how, like, that area of space is like, green. It's got these weird colours to it, the sky. And he's dying and he's freezing over. And, it's like Yondu. It's like almost angelic, a beam of light.
Yeah.
I just really like that shot, I just think it's a nice shot.
What I actually really like about that sequence is that I really don't care about the physics of that scene. It's not what this film is about. I don't really care. Obviously, if you think about it a lot, both of them would have died in second. Well, what I'm saying, it doesn't matter.
No, I don't think it matters.
So score for directing, Boaz.
I'm trying to think of like some other really good ones, where Star-Lord is flying back to the ship. And it was like Behold and all that stuff. That was great.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of really good ones. And like Groot, when he like makes those lights,
oh, yeah.
I quite like that scene. I thought that was really awesome. And just how the music it just gives you this sort of family feel. It's like, oh, this is amazing.
It's kind of like adult Goonies in space.
yeah. Basically, yeah. What will I give it direction? Maybe like an 8.3.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Yeah, I think I'll go like just 8.4. I think the direction is not its strongest suit. Not to say, as I said, it's not badly directed, and the action is really good, but just it's been better.
If we're talking about like memorable or inventive camera angles or choreography, yeah, probably not. And there are better choreographed or shot MCU films. One of the things I do, and I've said this before, that I really like about this film is like the color to it is just really great, and the sets,
the design,
color, the sets, the costumes, the design, just the general feel of the world and the look of it is really nice.
Screenplay then. I liked the moment on Morag at the start in the tomb when Korath, played by
can you pronounce that name?
By that guy.
Yeah. Everybody would know who that guy is, because that guy is in almost everything. You can't like flick a channel without him being somewhere in a movie.
Dingemon Huansu. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, I know. He's probably spitting out his, whatever the hell he drinks.
He's asking questions about him and doesn't really know who he is. And they're about to take him away when Peter says, "There's another name you might know me by," long pause, nice push into his face, and says, "Star-Lord." And Korath just goes, "Who?" Star-Lord, man, the legendary outlaw. It's just, one, it's a great joke, plus Peter thinks it's he's a big shot when he really isn't at all, so it's just kind of like a really great starting point for the character to build from.
Yeah. I like when John C. Reilly captures him and he's like, "Oh, well, if it isn't Star Prince." He's like, "Lord, man." It's like got to remind you, for the love of God.
Yeah. He's fairly full of himself and kind of stupid. To then, by the end of the film, he's a respectable hero and leader at the end, but still keeping, the funny charm he has.
Yeah, he's still goofy, but he is he's not as stupid as he appears. Yeah. And he's got heart. Yeah. He's got heart.
Plus, it's a great way to work in the character's name, Star-Lord, from the comics, which does sound quite daft, and turn it into a joke, and ease you in that way, and don't make it sound serious from the start. Plus, then at the end, the name Star-Lord is really heartfelt for Quill, as he reads the letter from his mum at the end, who used to call him that as a kid. So it's good writing there.
I like also you saying like when it starts, it's a funny joke where Korath or whatever he's called is like start who, and at the end he's like more established that he's like you like Star-Lord, like I remember the name, you motherfucker. And I kind of like that. It's like, wow, oh my god, I've got recognition. I'm pretty cool now.
I think one of my favorite scenes, one of the best scenes actually, involves Rocket in like a really an emotional level, when Rocket and Drax are fighting in nowhere and Quill and Gamora come in to intervene, and Drax says, "This vermin speaks of affairs he knows nothing about. And Rocket says, "That is true. He has no respect. That is also true." Which is quite funny, but then the tone changes. Like, I remember watching this for the first time, like, the tone changes really quickly and quite dramatically, and then all of a sudden, Rocket is talking about his horrible past and says, "Well, I didn't ask to get made. I didn't ask to be torn apart and put back together over and over and turned into some little monster." And you really feel sorry for him. It's quite a little emotional there. And plus, I have a newfound respect on how raccoons are made. I learned something in this film.
Exactly. They are manufactured. I find it funny when he's called a raccoon.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to take orders for a raccoon. Like, what?
What the hell is that? That's what you are, stupid.
Yeah, that's what you are. Yeah.
Thor calls him a rabbit in Infinity War.
Yeah. Yeah, he does, yeah.
This is my friend, Tree, and Rabbit, or whatever.
Yeah, and, oh, god damn it. In the film as well, one of the Nova Corps guys calls him a hamster.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking orders from a hamster. So nobody actually knows what the hell he is, apart from Corps. Yeah. Obviously the best lines come from Groot. The last "We are Groot," that was really like, whoa.
That always gets to me, that bit. It
that
really
always
does.
Gets me, yeah. You think they take the piss out of his 3-word language, and yet that is like the most powerful.
It does. It seriously gets to me every time, the kind of like a really dark moment, I guess, in the storytelling that, the Darkcaster is falling to Xandar. They're all really banged up, and then Groot decides to put them in this massive ball, and then Rocket says, "No, Groot, you can't. You'll die. Why are you doing this?" And then this beautiful moment when Groot like strokes the side of his face and says, "We are Groot." It's just, it's just such a great moment.
We are family.
Yeah. There's got to be fucking memes or videos about that.
There's got to be, yeah. Where his face just morphs into Dom.
Oh, God. Please, no.
That's the truth.
That would ruin this whole film for me if I saw that. I've seen so many fucking memes about Dom Toretto.
Yeah. And family, I know.
Oh, God.
Yeah, they stopped being funny, they stopped being funny after the first one.
My favourite one was in Pulp Fiction, where he's like, "Say family again!" and he's got Dom Toretto's face on that guy. That was my favourite one.
That's a good one, I like that.
Right, funny lines section. There are shitloads.
I thought you were going to say family.
Yeah.
Don't you dare.
I'll rattle off a few. There are shitloads. Ninja Turtle, you better stop poking me. At the start, Peter escapes Morag and Pink Girl is found in his ship and says, and he says, "Hey, Barit, look, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I forgot you were here. Can you believe they call us criminals when he's assaulting us with that haircut from Groot? Rocket, rather. Biting? That's not fair."
I like also when they're he's about to kiss Gamora. Yeah, I like that. "I am not some starry-eyed waif to succumb to your pelvic sorcery."
Yeah.
Jesus. Like, that's some sexy talk right there. Pelvic sorcery, I've never heard.
Pelvic sorcery.
Never heard that. Could you imagine using that as a pickup line?
Yeah.
"Hey, girl, do you want to engage in some pelvic sorcery?"
Just relax, pal. It's cool to have a code name. It's not that weird. Oh, one of my favorites. "I like your knife. I'm keeping it. That was my favorite knife. Do not ever call me a thesaurus."
Oh, what was it? "These people are too literal. Literally, it'll go over his head. Nothing goes over my head. I would catch it."
I'm going to die surrounded by the biggest idiots in the galaxy. No one's blowing up moons. You just want to suck the joy out of everything. You're making me beat up grass.
Yeah, a bunch of jackasses standing in the center. You know where he nearly drops the orb, to pass it to someone? Yeah, apparently that was an accident. That actually just, that wasn't
really.
Scripted.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
that's
but
cool.
They kept it in because they thought it fit with the character.
I don't know that I believe anyone is 100% a dick, ma'am.
Yeah, quite like that.
From Drax, "It is pleasing once again to have friends. You, Quill, are my friend. This dumb tree, he is my friend. And this green whore." Oh, come on, just stop.
Yeah, I like that.
But my favourite line is not a funny one, actually. It's a beautifully poetic one from Gamora and her past when they enter the kiln, and all the prisoners are giving her shit, and Gamora says, whatever nightmares the future holds are dreams compared to what's behind me. You know, it just suggests that she's seen a lot of darkness in her life and gives kind of a nice subtle tease about the giant threat Thanos will be in the future. I quite like that line. It's really nice. Have you got a favourite line then?
Pelvic sorcery. Yeah. Just the phrase pelvic sorcery.
You're going to use that?
Yeah. I am going to use it, 100%. See if it works. See how many times I get punched.
You've not seen my pelvic sorcery yet, girl.
Yeah, I'm a lizard wizard.
Right, screenplay score, Boaz?
I would actually say one of the big downsides, I think, to the screenplay is like the villain,
yeah.
to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is so cut of the mill, boring as hell. Like, other than being a threat, he has got no personality, no charm. You kind of forget about him once he's dead.
I do like a bit of hamminess, though, to be fair. He does ham it up, but I don't mind that.
He does ham it up, that's nice, yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, that was fun. Have you seen the deleted scene? It wasn't really a deleted scene, it was like an outtake, where he does the dance-off with him.
Oh,
it's funny.
I've seen that,
Search for it on YouTube, I love that, yeah. It's like, yeah, let's do this, and he cracks out some moves. I think that's great, they should have kept that in.
Yeah.
You know, it was nice, the hamminess, and obviously he's a big threat, but I just was never feeling him as a character.
No.
One, if you're going to go ham, like, say something absolutely insane. Do you know what I mean? He's not even, like, a good, insane villain.
He doesn't have that many good lines either, really.
Yeah, he doesn't. He is very, like, straight, cut of the mill and really dull. He's just like, you know, I'm going to kill everyone. Yeah, we're going to kill everyone. I'm going to kill you. And you're like, dude, give it a rest. Like, say something, I don't know. Say something interesting. I don't know. He's just a really dull villain. I mean, actually, if I had like a Guardian, like I think I like Guardians more than one more than two.
Yeah,
but I do like Guardians too. But I think I like one more than two. But when you're coming with villains, I prefer Ego.
Oh yeah,
like just 100%.
Well, it's Kurt Russell,
you know?
So.
Yeah, one, it's Kurt Russell, and two, he is very interesting. He's funny. Like, he's weird. You know, it's just great. But like this guy, I'm not sure if you could have. I don't even think it's the actor. I just think he's a very dull character.
I think my main problem with Guardians 2 is the fact that they split them up too much.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, yeah. I think there were also like too many side quests and stuff going on. I think they should have all just been together and just focus on Ego, yeah. But all I'm saying is even those litany of villains, Taserface, and there were too many villains in the second one. Yeah. They should have just stuck with Ego, and I think they should have all been... but even all of those villains, I think, are 1,000 times better than Ronan. Yeah. He's just boring. So boring.
Poor Lee Pace.
Yeah, I would have preferred Korath or whatever, the black machine guy as a villain, you know. Even him, he's got more personality than Ronan. Jesus.
Score?
Yeah, man. Just on level of, like, the heart and the humour of it, you know. Yeah, maybe, like, 8.6 or something.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the script... in terms of structure, it's fairly generic, fairly formulaic. As you said, the bad guy is pretty meh.
He's a cookie-cutter villain, you know. You could literally replace him with any other...
But what makes this film great and really stand out from any of the other movies, other than maybe Avengers, is that the first one specifically, is that the character interactions are just genius. And there are so many funny, memorable lines in this. It is incredible. After this film, so many fans are just like, yep, some of these Guardians characters are my favourite character now. Screw the original Avengers. The Guardians is where it's at. So I'm going to go pretty high, to be fair. I'm going to go like a 9, straight out 9. All right, acting then.
Yeah, I might change mine to an 8.8, actually.
You can't.
I can do that.
Do you have the time stone? That's the next movie. You can do it in the next one, not here.
Okay, no, fuck off then. You don't want the free points. They're fair enough.
Oh yeah, this is my film. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you moron. What the fuck are you doing?
Right, acting. One of my favourite hilarious scenes is when you kind of first introduced to Drax, played by Dave Bautista, where he has Gamora up against the wall in the kiln by the throat, and Quill is trying to persuade Drax to let her go and use her to lead him to Ronan, and Peter mimes like slicing his throat, and Drax says, "Why would I put my finger across his throat?" And then Quill is really confused and then says, "Now this is a symbol for you slicing his throat. And then Drax still doesn't get it, and Quill turns to the guy next to him and says, you've heard of this, right? You've seen this, right? You know what this is? And the guy says, yeah. Cut to Quill, like, no.
Yeah.
And Chris Pratt is
Drax
brilliant
gives him a funny look.
in just like, oh, come on, people, in just such a subtle way. It's so funny. I just love the stupid humor of aliens not understanding metaphors in this film. It's just makes me laugh every time. I'm a man of simple tastes. I love the scene where we're all in the Milano for the first time, and Gamora's saying Quill's ship is filthy, and then walks off, and Quill says, oh, she has no idea. If I had a black light, the place would look like a Jackson Pollock painting. It's so funny because Chris Pratt...
Yeah, you messed up, Quill.
Yeah. Chris Pratt, sells it so well. He's so proud of himself. He's like, yeah, I've had all the different coloured alien girls in here.
Yes. Semen all over the walls. It's a pretty gross joke for a film of all ages. I think it's one of those things parents are going to chuckle, and then you Google Jackson Pollock paintings. You're going to go, he's talking about spunk.
Yep.
Pretty awful.
Yeah. I do find the fight between Drax and Ronan a tad funny in the wrong way, because Lee Pace's suit as Ronan does look really tight and uncomfortable on him, and the moves are quite simple for him. I do wonder if they had a more complex fight originally, and Lee Pace was just yeah, I can't do that because I literally can hardly move in this thing.
Yeah.
Did you find that?
Yeah, no, that is true.
He did look a bit awkward to me.
Yeah. He doesn't have much articulation, Doesn't really tend to bend or do much at all.
I like how the film takes the piss out of the slow motion walking thing, and a group of heroes do in films like this. When they're all in their red gear, Rocket is pulling out the crotch area. Gamora's yawning, and Quill is wiping his nose, while Drax is committed and doing it properly, all stoic. Good for him. And everyone doesn't care.
I've got to say, I think my favourite character and my favourite performance or whatever is Yondu. I do like the core group, and I think they're great.
Michael Rooker.
And I just love it, and I think it's just a special treat whenever he comes up. He's not there all the time, but whenever he just shows up, I just think he's brilliant. Kind of Southern United States, yeehaw kind of alien. Who's just, he's just so over the top. I love how he's always trying to get Quill to be thankful that he didn't eat him. My men wanted to eat you. I stopped him. I like that exchange. He's like, why the hell are you saying that like it's something to be thankful for? Regular people don't eat people.
We're not cannibals. I remember Michael Rooker in an interview saying, it seems like every time I do a James Gunn film, there's always so much makeup involved.
Yeah.
So he obviously has that red thing stuck on his head, all blue.
Yeah, the fin. Yeah.
Because he's in Slither as well. He's got shitloads of
he was in Slither.
makeup in there.
And he had he just had a fake hairpiece in the Suicide Squad.
The dance-off scene has to be one of the great surprises in the MCU for me, because it's so fucking funny and it's completely out of nowhere. And no, Quill didn't learn to dance in nowhere. Ronan says this really over-the-top speech just as he's about to decimate the planet of Xandar. And Quill just starts dancing, and Chris Pratt, is singing, "Ooh, child," and just goes for it. And you have this incredible reaction shots on Gamora's face and Ronan's face, just what the hell are you doing? And of course, Gamora does the weird head tilt thing again. And Lee Pace, as casually as you like, compared to anything he's just said previously in the film, just says, "What are you doing?" And then Quill's just tries to get Gamora involved in the dance, and she just shakes her head really quickly in complete shock. It's just so brilliant. And then obviously at the end, Quill just says, "I'm distracting you, you big turd blossom."
It's a brilliant insult.
Yeah, I just love it because it's just no one would have predicted that end, that moment. It's just so good.
The dance off to save the galaxy.
Yep. Have you got a favourite performance then?
Yeah, I'm going to go with, Yondu. But I do like most of the characters.
Michael Rooker.
And, the main... Yeah, Michael Rooker. I think out of the core cast, who do I like the most? Probably, Peter Quill.
Yeah, I would agree. Everyone's really good in their own way. But I think for me, my favourite performance is Dave Bautista as Drax. It's just...
Yeah, Dave Bautista is cool. Yeah.
Such a straight face in terms of their humour.
Yeah.
So, score, Boaz, what are you going for acting?
Yeah, maybe an 8.2.
I think that's pretty fair. I think I'll probably go with 8.3. Right, let's add up the scores then for Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
What are you doing?
What does he say when he blows him up? With the Guardians of the Galaxy, bitch, or something.
Yeah. Guardians of the Galaxy gets exactly 51 points. Cool, this could be a tight one. Right, Sorcerer Supreme, what is your pick for this week? I may have given it away.
Yeah, my pick is Doctor Strange.
Nice. So why did you pick Doctor Strange?
I think it's kind of the most insane MCU movie when it comes to just how crazy the action is, just how unbelievable the special effects is. I still put it quite highly, even in regards of what's come before. I still think it's one of the trippiest.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. Did you ever watch this YouTube series, Honest Trailers?
Oh yeah.
I loved Honest Trailers. I haven't watched it in a while. And their one about Doctor Strange is just completely 100% right. This is what if Iron Man, but on acid. And that is 100% what this film is like. This must be what an acid trip is like. It's so crazy.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because there's another superhero film which I think has more in common with this film than Iron Man as well, which I kind of have insights with. So we'll get onto that in screenplay.
Yeah, cool.
So were there any other MCU origin films in contention?
I was thinking of the Avengers and Iron Man and, Guardians if you hadn't picked it maybe. But if I was just to think of, an origin film where I'm I don't think it gets the appreciation that it probably deserves, and it is just, it's completely out there, do you know what I mean? I'll rewatch scenes just holy shit, this is just completely out there. It would be Doctor Strange, because they said it's gonna introduce magic and sorcery, and they weren't kidding. It's not just small parlor tricks. It's the city being split in half and stuff. I mean,
folding in on itself.
Yeah, folding in on itself. I don't think there's still yet a movie or a series which has duplicated that level of awe of just oh my god.
Maybe Inception, maybe.
Yeah. Well, so this is the thing that I was thinking about. The big, set pieces and the action fight scenes remind me of some concept from either Inception or a Christopher Nolan film. But it's trying to one-up it, if that makes sense. So it's Inception had a city folding. Fuck it, we're going to fold it 100 times. Or, when they have the zero gravity fight also in Inception, where the truck is flipping and the rooms flip. Oh. And so, in the, is it the New York Sanctum or whatever? Yeah, let's just have the bloody rooms go. They're extending, they're flipping around, they're going upside down.
So it's creative, yeah.
Yeah, it just seems to me that somebody watched Inception and was just okay, literally every scene in Inception, let's just dial that up to 100, and this is that film,
And there's another film of Nolan's work that certainly you get vibes from in this film, which I'll get to later.
I was going to say Tenet when...
Yeah, all right, give it away now. Cut that bit out.
Yeah, but this came before Tenet, so I don't know, because he'd been trying to make it for a while. I think it's a guy that just obsessively follows Nolan, and maybe he'd heard that he's making it with time going backwards and what have you, because that last fight was pretty crazy. I couldn't even remember half of that.
So I feel if Chris Nolan were to choose to make an MCU film, he would make a Doctor Strange film.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah. This is essentially like Nolan's greatest hits, but, just add in a couple of $100 million more. I think it's really out there. I don't really think it gets the credit it deserves for how creative, at least the action scenes are. You're like, they are really damn creative.
So what happens in Doctor Strange?
This film is about the titular Dr. Stephen Strange, renowned surgeon in New York City, of all places, because everybody lives in New York.
Neurosurgeon.
I don't think... Is he a neurosurgeon?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just thought he was
brain surgery, yeah.
All right. I just thought he was a surgeon. I didn't think it was specifically to do with the brain. Either way, he's the best whatever surgeon.
Basically, the surgeon that gets paid the big bucks.
He gets paid the big bucks, yeah. He's like a multi-millionaire, He's the Iron Man. He's the Tony Stark of surgeons, the Batman of surgeons. Everybody wants him, Every guy wants to be him. Every girl wants to be with him. And so he's really up himself. And when he's trying to find like some other high-profile case to take on, he's talking on the phone and looking at like texts on his screen. He's got a screen in his car. Who the fuck has a screen in their car? If you're driving, to be honest, it's a poor car design. And it's just asking for a crash. Like, who the hell would have a screen? I don't know. But anyway, so he's looking at the screen, looking at all this work, and he's not paying attention to the damn road. Crashes his car and severely messes up his hands. He's got severe nerve damage in his hands, and he can't be a surgeon again because he's the best. He had all this fine motor control. And just, they even do it at the beginning where he takes out a bullet out of somebody's brain and does it freehand, and because his hands are just so amazing. Yeah. But now he's lost the ability of his hands. He's basically used up all of his money to try and do all kinds of experimental and dangerous surgeries to fix his hands. Nothing works. And this guy happens to mention this man who couldn't walk. And he can, his spine was completely fucked, and he's walking now. So he goes to see this guy because he can't believe it. And the guy is walking, playing basketball. He's like, "How did you fix yourself?" And he goes, "Well, I went to this place, Kamatage." Tells him where it is. Doctor Strange goes there, and it turns out they're, a bunch of wizards. And so they teach him the mystic arts, and it turns out they're protecting the world from Dormammu, like some ancient malevolent demon from another universe, and
dark dimension.
Yeah, the dark dimension. One of the previous, sorcerers, Caecilius, has like betrayed the other sorcerers and is trying to bring about the dark dimensions, like invasion of Earth. So Doctor Strange, even though he started on this path just to learn enough magic so he could fix his hands, ends up saving the world from imminent destruction and becomes a superhero.
By bargaining, pretty much.
Yes. Just annoying the villain to
irritate
quit.
him.
Yeah, just irritating him. It's like, stop, quit it. Fine.
It's just like an annoying fly, isn't he, at the end?
Yeah, to be honest, like I would sell like everything I had. If there was a fly that it was just annoying me. I hate flies, man. They are, God, they're fucking horrible. But even a fly can piss you off so much, but you can kill it. You can just like, bang, fucking die,
and the next one comes.
And then the next one comes, and the next one comes. Then you're bargaining, you're giving half your wealth. And,
I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, come on. Yeah. Fine, I'll let you have your world back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right, directing. I absolutely love the scene when the Ancient One says to Doctor Strange, when he gets to Kamui-Taj, open your eye. And then you have this incredible, like, creative, dreamlike experience where Doctor Strange goes from, like, dimension to dimension. Just an extraordinary, trippy, dreamlike sequence. I think my favourite bit was when he's surrounded by hands, and then his own hand, like, branches off into more hands, which merges into his own face, and then a tiny Doctor Strange is stuck in his own eye, clinging onto his own iris, and then he lets go and goes into the next sequence. I actually really like Tilda Swinton's voice in this, because it goes from, like, the front and back speakers in the cinema or in your home cinema quite a few times, which I really liked. Just gives you this disorientation.
I'm pretty sure the director of photography, the director, the script writer, and whatever, just maybe the whole cast and crew, I think they did like DMT or ayahuasca or mushroom. They probably did them all. It's like, what are we going to do for this scene? Just do all the drugs. Yeah, that's going to be the scene. That was so weird, him going over through his own face and all that hand stuff. Yeah, that was really strange.
John Lennon produced a film once back in the day, and they literally did like LSD, and what they experienced, what they saw, they put into the film. It's so fucking weird. I can't remember what it's called now, but people have done that in the past.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised.
And shot what they've seen. Well, what's interesting is Tilda Swinton does actually mention the multiverse in that sequence.
Yeah, she does.
So the concept of the multiverse has always been in the MCU since this film. So it's just like, with the Loki stuff, this is where they're going to introduce the multiverse. I'm just like, well, it's already actually been there for a while. I would actually say... I haven't actually physically seen it yet.
Yeah. Well, no, I think Doctor Strange basically introduces the concept of the multiverse, but as an explanation for magic, and it does seem like the other universes are not duplicates of our universe that she's talking about. It's like all of the magical energy is siphoned from really strange universes. They're not like what-ifs of our one. They're like other universes which are just like bizarre as fuck. So I think that's their explanation of magic. If he makes energy or a portal, it's coming from some place else. But yeah, it is the first mention of the multiverse.
So you have like the mirror dimension, the dark dimension.
Yeah.
We have the quantum realm in Ant-Man, which I guess is another dimension.
Realm. Exactly, another dimension. Yeah. But also when people say like it introduced magic, I'm like, what about Thor? Like, I mean, what the hell was Loki doing? That's magic. Yeah, it didn't introduce magic. Don't be stupid. But it. Yeah, they tend to say whatever to sell a film.
Yeah, I love how creative this film is with the action scenes. You kind of said a little bit already, like the first fight with Doctor Strange and Caecilius. It's great in the corridor where Caecilius's goons are running at him on all different walls in the ceiling. And like Caecilius turns the whole place on its axis and everything's like falling through the three-dimensional doors.
Yeah.
And loses some of the goons in there. That was quite a cool idea. And the concept of that you just turn the knob on this door and it's a different place you can go to.
Yeah, you can go like anywhere on the planet.
Yeah. I love the astral projection fight between Doctor Strange and Scott Adkins' Lucian, where Doctor Strange is on an operating table and Dr. Palmer, played by Rachel McAdams, is operating on his body. But at the same time, in the astral dimension, another dimension, he's fighting Lucian. Like the way they interact, like they're like knocking things from our dimension, and I like the way like Strange's astral form is talking to Dr. Palmer while he's helping her operate on his real body. That was really fun.
That was pretty cool. My favourite part of that fight is where they knock into the snack machine. The doctor's trying to get a snack. He gets like a packet of crisps or whatever, and they just fly through the snack machine. And then it goes to what he's seeing, which is just all the snacks inexplicably just start, falling out of the machine. He's like, oh, bloody hell.
Yeah, it's just really visually satisfying to watch, and it keeps the action scenes interesting and creative with different visual feels to the film, and not just every action scene, is a version of an Inception style Nolan scene,
Yeah, I think because there are a lot of action scenes in this film, and training scenes, and it's just like they go a different area of magic and just like run with it, but each scene, so you get all kinds of like really crazy stuff, Caecilius, as I was saying, you have that corridor fight and what have you, and they're fighting with glass and all this ridiculous.
Yeah, they have like ice blades, don't they?
Ice blades, yeah. It's so weird, And yeah, so you got this kind of more grounded fight. You've got a room flipping around and all that craziness. And then you've got the city just just going mental. I mean, that's crazy. So they're controlling space and what have you. Until later, then you've got the astral projection. They talk about this in training, and I like how a lot of the things they talk about in training he does use in some big action set piece.
Yeah.
Learns astral projection. He has an astral projection fight. He learns, how to manipulate time, and then he starts having at the end. I love that where he rewinds all the chaos they've done. Yeah. And he's fighting with them in regular time, but everything else is going backwards. I thought that was incredible. Like, he punched one of them into a wall, and then the wall seals shut, or into an aquarium, and then the aquarium, all the glass
that was
reforms
funny,
and drowns the fucking guy. That was awesome.
I love the last action scene because you basically realise you're getting 2 Chris Nolan films for the price of one.
Yeah, basically.
Inception and Tenet.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's a bit where everything freezes. You know, it's a bit X-Men-y, I guess.
Yeah.
But not our main characters, they can still move. And then you get this visual spectacle of like the neon glowing colours of the dark dimension, and it gives you an indication of what the inside of Peter Quill's ship would look like with a Valak light. I love how the scene plays out that Doctor Strange puts Dormammu in a time loop, and the film like kills Doctor Strange in a variety of colourful ways. And I think my favourite bit of that was like the green tentacles, I think, just grab him and crush him.
That was pretty cool.
Do you notice that?
Yeah, I noticed that one.
You got to have tentacles in there somewhere.
Yeah, for the Japanese audience. Go up his ass.
Yeah.
Out of his mouth. Yeah, I definitely stroked off one. Come on.
But I just love how the film surprises you with so many visual styles and concepts that you've never really seen before this film.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
You know, certainly before this movie. You know, I just love creative superheroes. It's just really satisfying to watch.
I do think, like, he is definitely introduced as, like, one of the most creative. I mean, like, he can basically do whatever. You know, he does magic. He's like a master of magic. And they just go headlong into that, and it's mental. It's a completely mental film. And you're like, you know, what other hero would fight? Yeah, it's just like fly around and do all this other craziness, make portals, make weapons. And
what I like about it as well is it is really quite crazy, but it weirdly is grounded a little with how hard the magic is. It does feel like it's difficult to do. You know, they do mention in the script, like, well, how did you become a great surgeon through study and practice? It's the same thing, you know, and, you know, when he's starting to do it, he can hardly do it, you know, with the sling ring to open a portal. And also just the design of all the magical shapes that you get. It's you know, that sparky feel, that fire feel to it. It weirdly feels grounded.
No, definitely. It does feel like very physical rather than like kind of ethereal, you know. Like when he makes shields, it's like they look solid. They like solid light, but they look like real sort of things. You know, even like those magical weaponries they make, they look like shards of glass, you know.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. They do look like kind of tangible things. And I love the design of the portals and how they're like sparks.
Yeah.
Basically like a Catherine
wheel. Yeah. I like to just talk about the New York like mirror dimension scene, the Inception bit. You know, it's basically just like Inception on acid.
It is Inception on acid. I think any scene is on acid. It's like whatever on it.
Yeah.
I do love that scene. That is a long ass scene, and you're like, this is so insane. Like the budget must have been crazy for that scene. It gives me a headache, though. It gives me a massive headache watching that scene. Yeah, it gets to a point. I'm just like, oh, what is happening? Oh, God. You know, because
headache in a good way?
Yeah, it's a good headache. It's like an overwhelmed headache. It's like, you know, the buildings are going like this, and you go, wow, this is crazy. It's like all the buildings, the whole damn street, the city, everything. You know, it's
just so creative, like how really the CGI can fold and manipulate the architecture and make it feel seamless and not jarring.
Yeah,
you know, and to get the lighting right so it doesn't look out of place is really impressive for me.
Oh yeah, it still looks pretty good. Yeah. I think the bit that actually gave me the headache is where he falls and he just goes through a bunch of stuff, like it's a train that becomes a walkway that's becoming a. And I was just like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's too hard to describe. If we try and describe it all, we'll be here all day.
Yeah, you can't do it, yeah. I do think it's, like, visually one of my... Like, it's a forgotten gem. Well, it's probably not a forgotten gem, but I don't think it gets the credit it deserves. Like, I think it is the most over-the-top, you know, Marvel film, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I like the bit where, like, the Ancient One creates her own, like, arena, and Caecilius creates, like, a wave of bricks to attack the Ancient One, and then the Ancient One reverses the wave on him with her body movement. That was probably my favourite bit that I could actually describe.
Yeah.
Plus, like, when the Ancient One falls back into our dimension, they're not afraid to be brutal with that. She really takes a bit of a thud through that glass. I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
You know, when she dies. Have you got a favourite shot?
Oh, actually, do you know what was a really good shot? I think it was the first shot I ever saw of the film in the trailer, where he's basically walking on the side of the building, and he goes, "This is a mistake," and just looks out at just all the buildings are just everywhere. They're just everywhere. They're in the sky. They're on the side. That's probably my favorite shot, actually.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the first shots I'd seen, and I was like, "This film's going to be crazy," and I was right.
I think my favourite shot is in the New York Sanctum, where Doctor Strange like falls off the balcony when he's fighting Caecilius, I think, and the cloak of levitation goes after him, and then he slowly rises up with the window in the background, you know, just look, and he's creating like the string light thing, weapon, whip thingy, whatever you want to call it. You know, that looked really cool, because that's when the first moment where he's got the full costume on with the cloak. Yeah, I got to say though, the design of the costuming in this film is really incredible. I just love the detailing they give the suit, the costume, so good.
Yeah, definitely.
So score for me for directing, I gotta go quite high. I mean, it's proper good, man, and just so creative. So I'll go like 9.2, I think.
Yeah, that's really fair, because I was going to go 9.3, like instinctively.
Right, screenplay then. Like in Guardians, the opening scene for Star-Lord, he comes off as arrogant in like a stupid way. In the opening scenes of this with Doctor Strange, he comes off as like arrogant but in a too smart for his own good kind of way. You know, in the first surgery scene, he's playing a music quiz and corrects the guy, telling him he's got the wrong answer. You know, Strange tells him the correct one is actually this. And then there's another surgery scene, you know, he performs like a highly skilled brain surgery freehand, which is usually done with machinery. And then afterwards, he says to Rachel McAdams' character, Dr. Palmer, I didn't have to save his patient either, but sometimes I just can't help myself. You know, he does this surgery just because he can, to show off, and not really caring whether the guy will live or not. He just does it because he can, you know. But then at the end of well, I think that's unfair. I think he does care that whether Liv will die. But it's just that whole thing of, yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah. I think he is a good person, but he cares a bit too much about the fame himself that it'll bring. Yeah, and you know his reputation and his just how people will see him. And the whole film is just a journey of him thinking of himself mainly, like 99% of the time. He is altruistically sacrificing everything for the greater good. You know, so there is a massive character change throughout the film. But I was saying, you were saying like whether he cares about his patients. Like when he's having the conversation to that guy looking for a case, I think that perfectly gets his point across, because he's saying, "Oh, there's this patient." He's like, "Dude, that's way too easy. Anybody could do that." And he goes, "Well, there's this guy, you know," and he's like, "No, that is impossible. Like if I do that, that person could die. I'm not going to stake my reputation on that." And then he says one that's just the right level of fame. Yeah. He's like, "Oh yeah, send me the info for that."
Did you notice the Rhodey reference?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, yeah.
I never saw that until I rewatched it for this. I was like, "How did I miss this?"
Yeah, U.S. Army colonel who has been injured in an experimental armor or something like that. Yeah, that is very clearly Rhodey. I think that's quite interesting.
By the end, he lets go of his ego and is willing to listen and learn more about his powers, his sorcery powers, but still being true to himself and helping people, but not for his own interests. You know, and that's why he still insists on being called Doctor Strange and not Mr. Strange, you know, or Sorcerer Strange or whatever. He's very proud of being a doctor.
Yeah. But I like the fact that, you know, through most of it, even when, you know, the action starts, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing here. He's like, I don't want to, because he gives this speech where I don't want to be part of this. And he has this huge argument where he's just defeated Caecilius for the first time, and he defeated that guy, and he's done all that. But he's like, listen, I did not sign up for this. I just wanted to fix my hands. Yeah. And I like how later he does get the, you know, when the Ancient One, you know, is dying, is having a conversation. And she's like, you know, it's not about you and stuff. Basically educates him again. And I love that. That's when it sinks in. And after she dies, it's like. And I love even like this is kind of like on the cusp of apocalypse. He needs to make the decision if he's going to join or not. And she even tells him like he can fix his hands, but he'll lose his ability to do magic, and he can go back his regular life, but the world will be poorer for it. And he just decides, it's just. I think it's just great. It's her death that kind of facilitates this change.
Yeah, I love that scene. I think it's beautiful, just visually, and with the writing, it's so good when the Ancient One is dying. And it's like nothing can prepare yourself for the real moment of death. And she says, "You'd think after all this time I'd be ready, but look at me, stretching one moment into 1,000 just so that I can watch the snow." Arguably my favourite line in the entire MCU, that it's just so beautifully done. Just some really great... That's my favourite line, by the way, obviously. There's just some really great, beautiful, metaphoric lines that certainly would blow Drax's mind. You're a man looking at the world through a keyhole. You've spent your whole life trying to widen that keyhole to see more, to know more. Now, on hearing that it can be widened in ways you can't imagine, you reject the possibility. And then later she says, you cannot beat a river into submission. You have to surrender to its current and use its power as your own. Just really beautiful stuff. From the Ancient One, especially.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of great, philosophical and great lines and stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of people describe this as quite as similar to Iron Man, the way Doctor Strange's origins play out. But I think this film actually reminds me more of like Batman, more specifically Batman Begins, where both Doctor Strange and Bruce Wayne like sacrifice like so much to learn a new culture to fight against evil enemies.
Oh, that's true.
But our heroes ultimately disagree with the concepts of this new culture of no mercy, kill or be killed. Strange and Bruce Wayne aren't willing to do that. Plus, their leader and mentor turns out to be hiding something. Obviously, one turns out to be evil in Ra's al Ghul. The Ancient One, not so much, obviously. But it certainly did remind me of Batman Begins a little bit.
Yeah, there are definitely... I didn't think about that, but yeah, there are definitely similarities. I think one of the things I don't like as much in this film is... And this might be... I don't think this is that controversial. I don't know. It depends what you say. But is like the humour. I'd rather this film had been completely straight from beginning to end.
You're never going to get that, though, with a Marvel film.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I know it's basically one of their hallmarks. They've got to sprinkle out the humour. I just don't think a lot of the humour works. So, like with Guardians of the Galaxy, we were talking about that. It's like the MCU is like, okay, we've got to have the funny stuff, and we got to have the serious stuff, and we got to have the touching stuff, and we got to have the action. Have this perfect balance. And I think in Guardians of the Galaxy, it's a really funny film, and everything is done, really well. With this film, I can't really point to the comedy bits. I think they just seem out of place. I don't think they're done well.
Yeah.
And when I'm talking about the script with you or favorite performances, I'm talking about like the more emotional beats in the film.
Yeah.
Because I think those are just the best, and the comedy is just not. It's not that good. I don't think I ever really laughed out loud to any attempt at comedy.
I did a few times.
Really, to me, it just felt like it was one of those like they just have to put the joke in there. I would have just preferred if they just took out most of the jokes and just had this as a straight.
You didn't like the Beyonce stuff?
No,
with Wong?
No, I didn't find it funny.
Oh, that's
not even.
When strangers like it's just Wong, like Beyonce.
Yeah,
Drake,
no, didn't find it funny.
Bono.
No,
I like that. So you laughed. You laughed at that bit.
No, I yeah, no, I did not.
All right,
prove it.
Yeah, I mean, I it's certainly not like laugh a minute like Guardians is, but
yeah.
I mean, there's another bit where he says, "Oh, thank you for the books and for the horrifying story and the threat upon my life."
Yeah,
like. Don't laugh at that.
Yeah, I got to stick to my guns. I know what the hell I said. I think the only bit I like properly chuckled at was like the Wi-Fi password I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
It was like, what is this, some mantra? It's the Wi-Fi password. We're not savages.
That didn't actually make me laugh because they use that in the...
Really?
No, because they... Not in the film, the actual film, because they use it in the trailer. So
yeah, that's true.
They use it already, so...
Yeah, it's already spoiled.
But I do find Chiwetel Ejiofor's character as Mordo, his character arc, fascinating in this film because you rarely see like good characters go bad in films. For me, it's usually the other way around these days, where so many villains are turned heroes now or anti-villains. You know, like Venom comes to mind, but not here with Mordo. He's so devoted to the Ancient One's way of working within the natural law, the same way Caecilius has devoted himself to Dormammu. You know, the ways of working against time, where the Ancient One and Doctor Strange are more flexible and kind of use bit of both to succeed. For Mordo, his whole belief system is shattered when the Ancient One lies to him. You know, he sees this whole situation as the Ancient One's fault, you know, because he's committed so much of his life on a lie. I mean, that must be so tough to come back from. Because obviously Doctor Strange doesn't have this history with the Ancient One like Mordo does. So, and he doesn't have this arrogance about him.
But it is really interesting because Mordo is so humble and is always trying to school Strange, especially when he's being disrespectful to, well, himself and her, especially her, where he's always correcting her, like, listen, you know, she's the bee's knees, you've got to listen to her, she knows, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, stop answering back, stop questioning. To the end, just being like, she's to blame for this. She's betrayed me, you know, this is... Do you know what I mean? Even after she died, she is still like, nope, she's not who I thought she was. And that must be terrible, because just the level of devotion he has. And then it's like,
I was just checking there if Mordo is in the sequel. He is, because that's actually pre-Endgame, the only post-credit scene that we haven't had a resolution to yet.
yeah, that's true. Post-credit scene, he's decided to get rid of all magic. He thinks magic itself is an abomination, you know. It's an aberration of the natural law.
Just a small thing as well. I quite liked how the script takes its time, you know, in training Doctor Strange and becoming a sorcerer. You know, mastering the sling ring takes a while. He eventually does it on Everest. He discovers the mirror dimension to practice spells.
I would like somebody to work out how long he actually trained for. It's really never given a hint. I'm not even sure. Maybe a year, maybe two. I'm not, you know, I'm not sure how long the hell it took.
Probably a long time, I would suspect.
Yeah. But, you know, it never really hints, so it must have been a few years, but I'm not sure.
Then you get this scene where he's all dressed up in this fancy red gear, and you think he's there, he's done it. But no, there's more training on how to fight with relics, you know, that hold magic. The script is just not afraid to take its time. It's explaining all these things and build up the lore. Plus, by the end of the film, he's just Doctor Strange, not the Sorcerer Supreme. He's still got a way to go on this journey. You know, and I'm just really excited for the sequel to this film, you know.
Yeah, well, he's even told by Wong to put the you know, Eye of Agamotto back, because even though he's, like, been proficient with it, it's like you still don't really know enough to use it.
Yeah.
You know, he beats the bad guys with his brains, not so much, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
He's just the smarter man. It's not that he's better trained.
I think that's what a lot of the Marvel films do really well. The heroes do beat the villains with their smarts, not by how big their muscles are, you know, and how powerful they are.
Stay in school, kids. Excelsior.
Yeah, exactly. Listen to Stan Lee's wise words. He will be missed.
Yes, he will.
So what's your favourite line, then?
Oh, well, actually, no, shit. I'll tell you what my favourite line is. You know where I said I didn't think anything was funny except that previous line?
Oh, here we go.
You know, now I'm going to go back on myself. There was another line that I really like that was genuinely quite funny. I can't believe I forgot about it. This is the second thing that made me laugh. All right. Where he introduces himself to Caecilius, you know, he's just murdered the guardian of that, whatever. And he goes, he goes like, what's your name? And he goes, no, he said, oh, no, that was it. He asked for his name. He's like, and you are Mr. And Doctor Strange says, Doctor. Ah, Mr. Doctor. And Doctor Strange goes, no, it's Strange. He goes, maybe, who am I to judge? You know, I kind of like that. It's a funny, like, who's on first, you know,
play on words.
Yeah, it's a play on words. Yeah. Mr. Doctor.
Also, I would say Mads Mikkelsen's Caecilius is fairly generic as well.
He is really generic, yeah.
Like Ronan is.
Yeah, like Ronan, yeah. Yeah, kind of like... Yeah, he's not one of the memorable ones either. I think probably the reason why that is for both of them is they're not given... apart from here and there where they have to face the good guy, the film is mainly about the Guardians and it's mainly just about Doctor Strange. It's not... Like, I think you need a kind of half and half to make a compelling villain.
It's always difficult with an origin film, though. You know, it's certainly always 60-40 in favour of the hero. That's kind of why Infinity War was so satisfying in the fact that...
Well, you spend a lot of time with Thanos, you know.
Yeah, you have all these great heroes all together, but it's Thanos' film, really.
Yeah.
You know,
and I would say, like...
They're making up for that trend of not having great villains. Well, we're going to focus it on all the big bad in this one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so, it's pretty difficult. I do like Mads Mikkelsen's performance in it, but he isn't, like, one of the most memorable villains.
If I were to choose, I would choose Ronan, probably. Mainly just because of the hamminess. I don't mind a bit of ham. That sounds weird. Screenplay score for me, I'll go 8.1. How about you, sir?
Yeah, I'll give it like an 8, actually.
Right, acting then. I don't have too many notes on acting, to be fair. There's nothing that really shouts out too much with acting.
I think, to me, the only performance that I genuinely really liked is Mordo. Like, I'm like, I do. I actually, like, genuinely like, especially when the scene where he's, like, been betrayed, he feels betrayed.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, he's so good. Like, I think he does a really, really good job. I think
Cold?
Huh?
Cold?
What's he called? He's Nigerian, right? So...
No. He's
no?
British.
Is he? No, he's half. He's half something, obviously. It's not an English name.
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Chiwetel Ejiofor. I'm gonna find him because I have a feeling he might be Nigerian or part Nigerian, which is terrible that I don't know his name because I'm part Nigerian. But I'm a terrible Nigerian. I know nothing about my culture. I
really liked Benedict Cumberbatch's like hand acting after the crash. Like in close-ups, it looks really convincing. And I would say it's really quite hard to do well, even in the fairly wide shots. His hands are constantly trembling, if you notice, and you could easily just shake your hands in one direction and it will look fake. And I tried it myself, and it is actually really hard to get that right. I think it would have taken a lot of dedication for Cumberbatch to get that right. He has to be so conscious of his hands throughout this film, and there's no surprise there are some scenes where he's got his hands in his pockets. So I just love that commitment from him. Like Tilda Swinton, I think is great. Yes, there has been some controversy recently that's come out, which is really frustrating for me, where Kevin Feige has said it was a mistake that we cast Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One. But I just feel like it's a lose-lose situation with this character.
Do you know, I'm going to say this. I don't actually care. Not popular enough for me to actually give a damn. That's like telling me, I don't know, Alfred's grandfather, like, they changed his race. I don't give a fuck. I don't care about the Ancient One. Yeah. Never have. So it's a minor character in a, in a mythology you didn't really know much about anyway. I don't care.
I agree, yeah.
It's not a big thing. I personally don't really like sex changing and race changing that much. But if it's a character that's not, like, well known, I don't really tend to mind.
Yeah, because obviously in the comics this is a very stereotypical Asian old character, so they decided to do a gender swap. But keep it like gender neutral. That's what they were going for. But I mean, if you have the chance to cast Tilda Swinton in your film, you cast Tilda Swinton. She is one of the best actresses around. Yeah, one of the best actresses of her generation. And I just feel like Marvel thought they were being clever by casting a woman, making it gender neutral for this very powerful character. But even if they went with an Asian stereotypical character, comic book accurate, I think they would have had criticism come their way anyway, because it's like, it's just a Asian stereotype they're using there. They're just casting an Asian actor in a stereotype. What's all that about? That's not fair.
Like, it's not so much of a stereotype. They are in Asia, So it's like, if anybody's going to be the head of a school of wizards somewhere in Kathmandu, it would be an Asian. But, I do get you. There's stereo. I mean, people, I watched this thing which was about Doctor Strange, and they said the original couple of issues, he was actually drawn as Chinese. Like, he was drawn with the slanted eyes because he was from, the East. So it's like, that's where it's set. So, so I think it was like, as soon as he developed he learnt magic in China or whatever, he becomes old Chinese and looking. So, I mean, whatever. I don't really like race changing and sex changing most of the time. I think it's done a bit too liberally. Like, number one, I don't, I'm going on a bit of a rant here, but I don't like how they've changed a lot of classically white characters in the comics to black people. I haven't got a problem with that. Okay. There are just plenty of black characters. And I think it's almost like hand-me-downs where you're like, I can't be bothered to introduce good, unique black characters. I'm going to race swap one into a black man. I just think that's lazy. It's just really, really lazy. And I don't like it. Yeah, right. But also, switching men into women, I also don't like. There are plenty of great women characters. And if you want to make more. Stop, just switch. I just find it really, really lazy. So I don't really like gender and race swaps anyway. And when it comes to Asians, I think they actually get the short end of the stick. Because while it's like white men can be changed into women or changed into different races, traditionally Asian characters, there are very few of them. And they all get changed into white people. It seems a bit bizarre to me, And it must really be a pain in the ass for any young Chinese, Japanese, East Asian actors in Hollywood that all of these roles of animes and minor comic characters of Asian descent are just getting snatched up by, white people. It just must be incredibly infuriating. But, that's my rant over. I'm not a fan of it. If you're going to do the source material, just stick with it. If people get offended, then they obviously didn't like the source material. So
certainly a cynical example was when Scarlett Johansson was cast as Major in Ghost in the Shell. Yeah, not a great film anyway, but at the same time, it's like if you don't cast someone like Scarlett, you're not going to get the film made. And for me personally, I'd rather watch the film than like not get the right budget and not be made at all if you try and cast an Asian actor that no one's heard of.
Yeah, true.
But well, not a great film anyway. Anyway, back to Doctor Strange and acting. I really liked Benedict Wong's performance as Wong. He's very like emotionless throughout the film in like a cool way. But at the end, when Doctor Strange says, you really should have stolen the whole book because the warnings come after the spells. And then Wong just burst out laughing. That did make me laugh at the end.
Yeah, that made me smile.
My favourite performance is actually Tilda Swinton. I'm a fan of hers. I think she does a really great job. Especially when like that opening scene with Doctor Strange. She's just so, I don't know how you describe it, just so like, yes, we have books, look. All the diagrams.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I like that. It's almost like a genuineness but a sarcasm as well. Like she's just taking the piss, but like, I quite like that. I thought that was fun.
She's great. How about you?
Yeah, my favourite would be my fellow Nigerian. Oh, God. Mordo. The guy that plays Mordo. I'm not going to do it.
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Ejiofor. Yeah, Ejiofor. That's what I said. I knew that. My African brother.
Right, score for me for acting. It's certainly a very different style of acting in this film. More traditional, I guess, of what we're used to in certainly Hollywood straight drama films, I guess, compared to Guardians. It's very much leaned more on the comedy style of acting in Guardians. So I'll go 8.4 for me. How about you, sir?
Yeah, I'll go 8.3.
Right, so let's add up the scores then for Doctor Strange. Oh.
Is it that close?
Doctor Strange gets 51.3. So Doctor Strange wins by 0.3 of a point.
Bloody hell. Yeah, that's really close.
So yeah, that's just how it adds up sometimes. I still think Guardians of the Galaxy is the better film, but I think it's just the directing score for Guardians lets it down, I guess. But And I think with Doctor Strange, the acting is really pretty good. It's certainly with the emotional stuff. Plus, the directing is like
the directing is top tier. Yeah, the directing is like out of this world. Yeah.
But what film would I want to watch again? Like immediately, it would be Guardians. So.
Yeah, I think I might agree with you, just because of how like fun it is. It's the funner film. Yeah,
I think it's probably the tightest we've had. I think.
Yeah.
Right, that's it then for this week. Next week, as the card counter hits the big screens, and the star of that film is Oscar Isaac. So we're going to be picking our favourite Oscar Isaac films for next week. All right. Thanks, Bo, as always. You've been rather good.
I've been strange.
Bye-bye.
Mr. Strange. Bye-bye, Mr. Star.
Yeah, bye-bye. That's it for this week's pod. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to find out more about the podcast or suggest future topics for us to discuss related to upcoming releases, let us know on Instagram at Film vs. Film Podcast and on Twitter at FVF_podcast. Remember, please subscribe. Pod signing off.